Feel the real fear with us. Unsolved mysteries and horror stories.
The Black Death. It is easily one of the darkest chapters in human history. From 1346 to around 1353, this nightmare wiped out more than a third of Europe's entire population. Now, science tells us it was a massive plague pandemic. But back then, not everyone was buying that. In the Middle Ages, a lot of people believed this massive wave of death was the work of witchcraft, dark magic, or literal demon worship. They thought someone out there summoned a demon to bring this horror upon them. Obviously, researchers and modern science have proven it was just a severe plague. But the paranoia of that era was very real. What's up, guys, and welcome back to Shadows Prevails. I'm your host, Hassan. Today, we're diving into a story that is genuinely terrifying and straight up bizarre. A forgotten, dark chapter of real history. Here at Shadows Prevails, we're all about uncovering these lost, creepy legends and bringing them right to your screens. So, listeners, for today's episode of Unsolved Mysteries, we're talking about something you've probably never heard of. It's called the Dancing Plague. To even wrap our heads around what this was, we have to travel back in time to a morning in July, 1518, in the city of Strasbourg, France. Picture this: a totally normal housewife named Frau Troffea is just going about her daily chores. Out of nowhere, she just starts dancing. She dances right out of her house and into the street. At first, people were amused. They were clapping, cheering her on, thinking it was just a random burst of joy. But that amusement faded real quick. Why? Because she didn't stop. She just kept going. There was zero sign of exhaustion on her face. Morning turned to afternoon, afternoon to night, and night back to morning. She kept dancing continuously. And then, others started joining her. Not just women, men too. It turned into this massive, non-stop crowd of people just dancing relentlessly. They couldn't stop. Eventually, people started dropping dead from heart attacks, strokes, and pure exhaustion. By the end of the month, the death toll hit somewhere between 400 and 500 people. But why? What triggered Frau Troffea to just snap and start dancing? What did she see? And why did so many people join her? The whole city was in a panic, because this wasn't just a weird event anymore. It was a literal deadly epidemic. People were dancing themselves to death. Some locals thought she must have seen something that possessed her. I mean, think about it logically. If a normal person starts dancing, how long can they realistically go before they get tired and stop? But she danced non-stop for 5 whole days. Is that even humanly possible? No sleep, no food, no water. Just dancing for 5 days until her body eventually just gave out, and she died. This terrifying event went down in history as the Dancing Plague of 1518. People didn't know what to make of Troffea. Remember, this was the Middle Ages. Witch hunts were a massive deal. Innocent women were being burned at the stake just on the suspicion of being witches. But nobody killed Troffea. She killed herself through exhaustion, and her neighbors were too busy dancing alongside her to do anything about it. People started investigating, trying to figure out how to stop this literal dance of death. What actually was this? You know, you see stuff like this in Hollywood movies all the time. But it's not just fiction. Honestly, I don't think movies or series are entirely fictional anyway. They usually stem from human psychology and real, messed up historical events just like this one. To this day, this remains one of history's greatest unsolved mysteries. People have tried to explain it. Author John Waller tried to crack the case in his book, A Time to Dance, A Time to Die, The Extraordinary Story of the Dancing Plague of 1518. But not everyone bought his theory, and that brings up a really creepy question. Was it actually dancing? Or was it just people wildly thrashing their limbs around? Historical records actually state that the victims were twitching and convulsing. They weren't exactly dancing to a beat. It looked a lot more like a zombie movie. Looking at how their bodies were moving, it seemed like someone, or something, was forcing them to do it against their will. Someone tried to put a chemical explanation to this. In 1952, a guy named Eugene Bachman wrote a book where he and a few experts claimed it was caused by ergot, a toxic mold that grows on damp rye stalks, which can basically cause crazy LSD-like hallucinations. Then you have Robert, a sociologist from James Cook University in Australia, who came up with a totally different theory. He thought maybe they joined some weird new religious cult and were willingly dancing themselves to death. But John Waller completely shut that down. He said there's zero proof they were doing this willingly. If you look at the sketches drawn from that exact time period, since cameras obviously didn't exist, the people didn't look happy. There was no joy on their faces. They looked terrified, like they were being forced to dance. But why? Troffea didn't even have any of that toxic rye in her house. So what did she touch? What did she look at that made her act like this? And the craziest part is, this wasn't an isolated incident. Similar things happened in other regions over time. Experts try to blame it on the environment. Freezing winters, scorching heat, droughts, hailstorms. They think maybe people were suffering from severe malnutrition and stress. It is true that diseases like smallpox, syphilis, and leprosy were rampant back then. The sheer anxiety and trauma of the time definitely caused psychological breakdowns. But does anxiety make 500 people dance to death? Psychologists call this mass hysteria. When mass hysteria hits, a large group of people basically start experiencing the exact same delusion at the same time. We've talked about this on the channel before. Can a whole crowd hallucinate the same thing? Yes. Can they all fall into the same weird trance? Absolutely. History actually backs this up. Back in 400 BC, there was reportedly an event where people felt their bodies were shrinking, getting smaller and smaller. They called that mass hysteria too. In parts of Africa and Asia, there were literal panic epidemics where people across miles and miles of land believed they were shrinking and just vanishing. How is that even possible? Or take the Tanganyika laughter epidemic between 1962 and 1963 in Tanzania and Uganda. 3 schoolgirls randomly started laughing hysterically. That laughter spread through the entire school, then the village, then the whole country, and even crossed the border into Uganda. That laughter lasted for 17 months, or in 1967 in Singapore, when a massive panic wave caused the deaths of nearly 1,000 people. So, yeah, mass hysteria is real. It just shapeshifts. So, we've heard the mass hysteria theories. But listeners, does people shrinking and vanishing sound normal to you? Is that just mass hysteria? Or are we looking at some straight-up paranormal activity here? Every time mass hysteria is brought up, it's just theories. Nobody has ever brought forward hardcore, undeniable proof. No one has ever autopsied a body from these events and proven exactly what caused it. It feels like scientists just slapped the label mass hysteria on these unsolved mysteries because they don't have a real answer. The truth is, it's still unknown. Will we ever find out what really happened? Some people genuinely believe it was a terrifying demon walking through the streets. If you made eye contact with it, you started dancing. And if someone came to watch you dance and made eye contact with you, they'd catch it too. It spread from person to person, exactly like a zombie virus. One gets infected, and they immediately infect the next. Honestly, it sounds a lot like mass hypnosis or some intense mind control. Because there's no concrete proof, this remains completely unsolved. They called it the dancing plague, because just like a real plague, it was highly contagious. Whoever caught it couldn't stop. They just kept moving until their bodies gave up and they died. Listeners, just think about it for a second. Dancing for 5 days straight. That is not physically possible for a human being. Even if it was mass hysteria, could your body keep moving for 5 days? Definitely not. Unless there was some unseen entity, some paranormal force, or a supernatural presence taking over their bodies. How could a human go 6 days with no food, no water, no sleep, just violently thrashing around? And the historical sketches prove they didn't want to do it. Someone or something was forcing them. But who? That's a mystery we might never solve. All right, listeners, that's all for today's episode. I really hope you guys enjoyed this deep dive. If you stick with Shadows Prevails, we're going to be bringing you so many more mind-bending stories like this for Season 2 of Unsolved Mysteries. And it's not just ghost stories. There are things in this world that remain completely unexplained. Sometimes, we don't know if it's paranormal, and we don't know if it's medical science, because nothing has been fully proven. That's what makes them true unsolved mysteries. We're gonna wrap it up here for today. I'll see you guys in the next episode of Horror Night, where we'll share even more crazy stories. Thank you so much for tuning in. Please take care of yourselves, stay safe, and if you haven't already, make sure to hit that subscribe button. If you liked the video, drop a like and share it with your friends. Stay well, stay curious. Goodbye, and good night.